I thought I'd seen war. I'd fought in orbital sieges where the sky burned like a second sun. I'd cleared tunnels on Europa where the ice screamed from pressure fractures and men went mad from the sound. I'd watched good soldiers freeze, suffocate, or vanish into vacuum. So when they told me I was being reassigned to an integrated command unit, I figured it was just another political experiment, humans proving we could play nice with the wider galaxy. I was wrong. The first time I saw her, I understood that immediately. She stood at the center of the command deck, motionless, like a statue carved from something too precise to be natural. Tall, easily ahead above any human. Her form was vaguely humanoid, but wrong in the details. Limbs too long, joints bending with unsettling smoothness. Her skin, if that's what it was, held a faint, shifting iridescence like oil on water, constantly reconfiguring in patterns that made your eyes itch if you stared too long. No visible armor, no weapons. She didn't need them. "This is Commander Valkyra," the liaison officer said, voice tight. "You will address her as Commander," but her head turned toward me. No, snapped wasn't the right word. It aligned like a sensor locking onto a target. Her eyes, God, they weren't eyes in any human sense. Two elongated voids, glossy and depthless, reflecting nothing. When they settled on me, I felt cataloged, not seen, processed. "Human designation?" she asked. Her voice didn't come from her mouth. It came from everywhere at once, layered, harmonized like multiple tones speaking in perfect synchronization. "Sergeant alias Vance," I said, forcing steadiness into my voice. A pause. "Then you exhibit elevated cortisol levels and defensive posture. You anticipate threat." I almost laughed. "With respect, Commander, that's standard." Another pause. "Correction," she said. "For humans, that should have been my first real warning. Our first deployment together was a disaster, or at least I thought it was. Pirate fleet ambush in the killed expanse. Classic trap, distress signal, derelict freighter, then a sudden swarm of fast attack craft dropping out of fold space. Our escort frigates panicked. Formation broke instantly. Comms filled with overlapping chatter, fear, confusion, people shouting for orders that weren't coming fast enough. I looked to her. Valkyra hadn't moved. Not a twitch. "Commander," I said, trying to keep urgency from turning into panic, "we need two. Silence. Not shouted. Not harsh. Absolute." The bridge went quiet, not because she raised her voice, but because something in it compelled obedience. Even the comms chatter seemed to thin, like static fading under pressure. Her gaze shifted not to the enemy's ships, but to the tactical display, and then she started speaking. "Vector Group 3 reduced thrust by 12%. No hesitation, no explanation. Group 1 at maintain current trajectory. Do not engage. Flagship divert power from forward shields to lateral arrays." I frowned. That made no sense. The pirates were attacking head on. Redistributing shield power sideways was. The first explosion cut me off. One of our frigates, Group 3, jerked sideways as its engines throttled down. A pirate missile swarm overshot it completely, streaking past into empty space. Another ship, following her order, didn't fire. It held position while 3 enemy craft closed in. And then 2 of those craft collided mid-approach, their trajectories subtly altered by the frigate's gravitational wake. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. She wasn't reacting, she was anticipating. "No," she said. Every ship under her command fired at once. Not at the closest targets, not at the largest threats, at empty space. For half a second, I thought she'd made a mistake. Then the pirates folded, literally. 3 enemy vessels dropped out of fold space directly into the firing lines. Ambush reinforcements arriving exactly where Valkyra had predicted they would. They didn't even have time to register the battlefield before they were torn apart. The rest of the pirate fleet broke formation. "Pursuit is unnecessary," she said calmly. "They will disengage within 37 seconds. They did it in 32. After that, no one questioned her, not out loud, but I watched her. I couldn't help it. Humans command through emotion, fear, loyalty, inspiration, anger. Even the best of us rely on instinct shaped by experience. Valkyra had none of that. She didn't get angry, didn't celebrate victories, didn't mourn losses. She calculated. I started noticing patterns. She never issued redundant orders. Every command had a cascading effect, like she was playing a game 10 moves ahead while everyone else was struggling to understand the current turn. She rarely looked at people when speaking to them. But when she did, it was invasive, like she was dissecting you without touching you. And the worst part, she was always right. The breaking point came during the siege of Tharos Ix. Ground operation, urban combat, my specialty. Or it had been. The enemy, some kind of distributed hive intelligence, had taken over the city infrastructure. Drones, automated defenses, even the buildings themselves were being weaponized. Human command wanted a cautious advance. Clear sector by sector, minimize casualties. Valkyra disagreed. Total collapse of enemy coordination requires simultaneous disruption across all nodes, she said. That's not possible. One of the officers argued. We don't have the manpower. You have sufficient resources, she replied. Your limitation is conceptual. That didn't go over well. But she had operational authority, so we deployed. And that's when things started going wrong. Units lost contact. Streets shifted, literally modular architecture reconfiguring to isolate squads. Automated turrets sprang from walls we'd already cleared. It felt like the city was alive. My squad got pinned in a narrow corridor, crossfire from 2 directions. We were seconds from being cut down. Commander, I snapped into comms. We need extraction ore. Negative, she said. My stomach dropped. We can't hold this position. Correct, she said. You are not intended to hold, and you're flared. Then what the hell are we doing here? Then a palmless. You are bait. But for a moment, I couldn't breathe. Repeat, I said, voice low. You are the most viable unit to draw central processing attention. She continued, as if explaining something obvious. Your survival probability was calculated at 23% upon assignment. 23%. She'd sent us here expecting us to die. Commander, I said, every word tight with controlled rage. With respect, that's not your call to make. It is precisely my function, she replied. Another explosion rocked the corridor. My squad mates shouted, returning fire, scrambling for cover. You're sacrificing us, I said. Nope, she said. And for the first time, there was something different in her voice, not emotion, something colder. Sacrifice implies loss without sufficient gain. Your engagement is necessary for total system termination. People aren't numbers. I snapped. No, she said softly. They are variables. I should have hated her. Part of me did. But when the moment came, the real moment, the one everything had been building toward, I understood. The enemy adapted faster than anything we'd faced. Every move we made, it countered. Every strategy, it learned. Except hers, because she didn't think like us. She let the city isolate us, let it concentrate its defenses, let it believe it was winning. Then she acted, all at once. Orbital strikes, precisely timed to hit structural nodes we didn't even know existed. Ground units repositioned in ways that seemed suicidal, until the terrain itself shifted, channeling enemy forces into kill zones. And at the center of it all is my squad. The corridor walls split open as the enemy redirected everything toward us. Drones poured in, turrets deployed, the air filled with targeting lasers. Commander, I whispered, if you've got a plan, now would be a great time. I do, she said. For the first time since I'd met her, she moved, not like before, not controlled, not precise, fast, too fast. One moment she was on the command deck, 100 kilometers away. The next, she was there, in the corridor, between us and the swarm. I don't know how, I don't think I want to know. The drones opened fire. She didn't dodge. She shifted. Her form blurred, elongated, fractured into overlapping afterimages that didn't quite align with reality. Projectiles passed through spaces she'd occupied a fraction of a second before or after. She reached out, and the drones just stopped. Mid-air, like something had cut their connection to the universe. Then they collapsed, every single one. The turrets followed. Silence fell. My ears rang. My squad stared, frozen, weapons still raised. She turned to us, unharmed, unchanged. Central processing node has been exposed, she said. Engage like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just broken every rule of physics I understood. We won. Of course we did. We always do under her command. But I don't think it's because we're better. Standing there in the ruins of Tharos Axe, watching her silhouette against the burning skyline, I realized something that hasn't left me since. Humanity prides itself on adaptability, on creativity, on the ability to face the unknown and survive. But out here, in a universe this vast, this complex, this indifferent, we're not the apex. We're not even close. We're just one species among many, loud, emotional, stubbornly clinging to the idea that we matter. And maybe we do, but not because we're the strongest, not because we're the smartest, because we're willing to follow something like her into the dark, even when we don't understand it, even when it terrifies us, even when it means betting our lives on a mind that sees us not as people, but as pieces in a game we can barely comprehend. I used to think that was weakness. No, I'm not so sure. Because if there are more beings like Commander Valkyra out there, then the only thing more dangerous than facing them is facing the universe without them on our side. I thought I understood war before I met her. I'd served 12 years in the Terran Expeditionary Forces, long enough to stop flinching at the sound of hull breaches and long enough to stop remembering the names of the dead. War, to me, was chaos you learn to survive, noise, instinct, and just enough discipline to keep the panic from killing you faster than the enemy. Then they assigned me to her command. No explanation, no warning, just orders. Report to alien command vessel immediately. The first thing I noticed when I stepped onto her ship was the silence, not the absence of sound. There was a low hum everywhere, like the ship itself was alive, but the absence of human noise, no chatter, no nervous laughter, no complaints, just stillness. She stood at the center of the command chamber, tall, too tall. Her body was shaped like ours, but stretched, refined, like evolution had taken a different path and decided efficiency mattered more than familiarity. Her surface shimmered faintly, colors shifting in ways my brain struggled to track. Every movement she made was smooth, deliberate, like she had already calculated the exact outcome before acting. When she looked at me, I felt it, not attention, assessment. Human soldier, she said. Her voice didn't come from her mouth. It vibrated through the air, through the floor, through my chest. Sergeant Malik, I replied, standing straighter than I needed to. You will serve in Ground Unit Designation 7, she continued. Your survival probability has increased by 14.2 to reassignment due to I blinked. That's reassuring, I guess. It is not intent to reassure, she said. That was my introduction. The first battle under her command didn't feel like battle at all. We were deployed to a fractured colony world, its surface torn apart by some kind of autonomous defense network that had gone rogue. Cities shifted. Roads reconfigured. Entire districts sealed themselves off and crushed anything inside. Human command had tried to contain it for weeks. She ended in hours. But at the time, I thought she was getting us killed. Advance, she ordered. We moved into a narrow corridor between two towering structures that didn't look stable. My squad hesitated. I felt it too, the wrongness of the space, the sense that it was a trap waiting to snap shut. Commander, I said into comms, this path is a choke point. Recommend alternate route. No, she replied. Just that, no explanation. We advanced. Halfway through, the building shifted. The ground trembled and the walls folded inward, sealing both exits. Turrets unfolded from hidden compartments, their barrels already tracking us. Contact, someone shouted. We opened fire, but it was pointless. The turrets were too many, too fast. One of my squad mates went down before I even registered the first shot. Commander, we're pinned, I yelled. Correct, she said. Rage flared. Then get us out of here. Negative. My grip tightened on my rifle. We're gonna die in here. A pause. Then that outcome is acceptable. For a second, everything inside me went cold. She had sent us here knowing this would happen, knowing we'd be trapped, knowing we'd die. Why? I demanded. You are the optimal stimulus, she said. Not soldiers, not people, stimulus. We fought anyway. Because that's what we do. We took cover where we could, returned fire when we had openings, dragged the wounded behind whatever scraps of protection the shifting walls allowed. Every second felt borrowed. Then something changed. The turrets stopped firing. Not all at once, one by one, like a signal was being withdrawn. The walls shuddered again, but this time they didn't close further. They opened. A seam appeared in the structure ahead of us, splitting apart to reveal a chamber filled with something I can only describe as a core, pulsing, alive, connected to everything around it. Target exposed, she said calmly. Engage. I didn't hesitate. We all fired. The core reacted instantly, energy surging through it, the entire structure trembling as if it were trying to defend itself. But it was too late. Whatever control system had been coordinating the city had focused entirely on us. We weren't trapped, we were bait, and it had taken it. The core ruptured under sustained fire, collapsing inward in a violent cascade of light and sound. The walls froze mid-motion. The turrets went dead. Silence, just like that. Afterward, I confronted her. You used us, I said, standing in that quiet command chamber again, trying not to remember the ones who didn't make it out. Yes, she replied. No hesitation, no apology. Thee died because you needed a distraction. Thee died, she said, because their deaths enabled termination of a threat that would have resulted in significantly greater loss of human life. That doesn't make it right. It makes it necessary. I wanted to argue. I wanted to hate her. But I'd seen the battlefield data by then, seen how the system had been adapting, learning, outpacing every conventional strategy. Without that final exposure, without us drawing its full attention, it would have spread beyond the planet. Millions would have died. Maybe more. You didn't even try another way, I said. I evaluated all viable outcomes. She replied, this path yielded the highest probability of success and the lowest chance for Wes. I still serve under her. I still don't trust her. Not completely. But I've stopped underestimating her because I've seen what happens when she fights, how she sees patterns we can't, how she predicts movements before they happen, how she treats war not as chaos, but as something precise, solvable, terrifyingly solvable. We fight with emotion, with instinct, with hope. She fights with certainty. And that's what scares me most. Not that she's willing to sacrifice us, but that in the end, she's almost always right. Out here, in a universe that doesn't care whether we live or die, I'm starting to understand something I never wanted to admit. Humanity isn't at the top. We survive because we adapt, because we endure, because we refuse to quit. But beings like her, they don't survive, they decide who does. I wasn't supposed to be there. My orders had been routine, escort, decimetail, mid-tier priority, kind of you get when command wants you useful but forgettable. Then, halfway through transit, everything changed. New orders, immediate reassignment, no briefing. Report to foreign command authority. The foreign, that word sat wrong in my gut. By the time I stepped onto her vessel, I already knew something had gone off script. Human ships feel alive in a messy way. Voices, movement, tension bleeding through bulkheads. This place felt controlled, not quiet, contained like every sound had been permitted. She stood alone at the center of the chamber, tall, but not just tall, elongated, like her proportions had been stretched towards some purpose I couldn't understand. Her surface shimmered faintly, colors shifting in patterns that never quite repeated. No uniform, no visible rank, no weapon. She didn't need one. Her head turned toward me with mechanical precision, not stiff, just exact, like she had calculated the optimal angle before moving. Human soldier, she said. Her voice didn't travel. It arrived in my ears, in my chest, layered and harmonized like multiple tones, speaking as one. Sergeant Armin, I replied, forcing myself not to stare. You have been reassigned, she said. You will operate under my command. That wasn't in my orders. I said before I could stop myself. It is now, no emphasis, no authority flex, just fact. I felt irritation rise, automatic, human. With respect, I'd like clarification. You will receive sufficient information to perform your function. She replied, excess context is inefficient. That was the moment I realized something was very wrong. The deployment came fast. No prep time, no strategy briefing, just coordinates and a command to move. Enemy contact, unknown autonomous fleet operating near a fractured orbital ring. Previous human attempts to engage had failed. Ships lost, formations broken, targeting systems compromised. We launched anyway. I took my place in a boarding unit, magnetic boots locking to the drop craft's floor as we detached. My squad checked weapons, exchanged the usual half, jokes that never quite hide the tension. Then her voice cut through comms. Maintain formation. Do not engage until instructed. Standard enough. Until we saw the battlefield. It didn't make sense. Enemy drones moved in patterns that looked random at first glance. Erratic, unpredictable, constantly shifting vectors. Our support ships tried to track them and failed. Target locks dropped. Firing solutions collapsed. Command, we can't get a fix. Someone shouted over the channel. I waited for her to respond. She didn't, not immediately. Second stretched, too long. In combat, silence like that gets people killed. Commander, we need orders. A pause. Then you already have them. I frowned. We can't engage like this. Correct. She said. My jaw tightened. Then what are we waiting for? Alignment. The word meant nothing to me. Then she started issuing commands, not broad directives, specific adjustments. 10E1s. Unit 3, reduce lateral drift by 3%. Unit 7, delay rotation by half a second. Support vessel, increase signal output on inactive channel. Bah, it sounded insane. We were under threat, and she was fine-tuning movement like we were in a simulation. But we followed orders, because that's what soldiers do. At first, nothing changed. Then something shifted. The drones, those chaotic, unpredictable machines, started converging, not toward us, toward a point in space that had been empty seconds before. No, she said. Every unit fired, not at the drones, at the empty point. And then the emptiness broke. A distortion barely visible collapsed under the barrage. Something hidden, something coordinating the swarm, flickered into existence just long enough to be destroyed. The drones froze, just stopped. Then they fell apart, drifting lifeless through vacuum. After the battle, I didn't feel relief. I felt unsettled. We hadn't outgunned the enemy. We hadn't outmaneuvered them in any way I understood. She had seen something we couldn't, and she had used us to exploit it. I found her again in that same chamber, standing exactly where I'd first seen her, like she hadn't moved at all. You knew? I said. Wes, you knew where the control node would be. I calculated the highest probability location based on observed inconsistencies. I shook my head. No human system picked that up. I am not human. There was no arrogance in it, just truth. I hesitated, then asked the question that had been sitting in my chest since the fight started. Why me? Her gaze shifted to me again, those depthless eyes locking in a way that made my pulse spike. You were not selected for individual distinction, she said. That stung more than I expected. You were available, she continued, and sufficiently adaptable, but so I'm just convenient. Wes, I let out a slow breath, somewhere between a laugh and something more bitter. That's it? No go. A pause. You also exhibit resistance to cognitive dissonance, she added. You continue functioning when confronted with contradictory information. This increases your utility. They're util again. Not skill. Not bravery. Usefulness. I should have resented it. Part of me did. But another part, one I didn't like examining too closely, understood. Because out there, in that fractured battlefield where nothing made sense, my instincts had failed me. My training had failed me. Her logic hadn't. She hadn't guessed. She hadn't hoped. She had known. And that's when it really hit me. This wasn't a partnership. It wasn't even cooperation. It was something else entirely. Humans like me, we fight in the dark, piecing together patterns, reacting, adapting, surviving by instinct and experience. She doesn't. She sees the whole board, every move, every outcome, every expendable piece, including us, standing there under her gaze. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not fear of death, something worse. The realization that my survival wasn't in my hands anymore, that it might never have been. And that the only reason I was still alive, was because for now, She had decided I was useful. I thought it was a clerical error. That was my first reaction when the reassignment order came through. Confusion followed by mild irritation. I'd been rotated out of frontline operations 2 weeks prior, finally catching a break after a brutal campaign in the outer colonies. My next posting was supposed to be quiet, routine. Instead, I got transferred to an alien command. No explanation, no briefing, just a new chain of command attached to a name I couldn't even pronounce. I remember laughing when I first read it. Must be a joke, I told Ruse, tossing the data pad onto the bunk. He didn't laugh. Come on, I said, shaking my head. They don't just stick human infantry under alien leadership. Not like that. They do now, he replied. Orders are flag top priority. I scoffed, but there was a flicker of doubt creeping in. Still, I brushed it off. Probably some diplomatic experiment. Show the galaxy we could cooperate, integrate, play nice. I figured whoever this alien commander was, they'd be relying on us just as much as we relied on them. I couldn't have been more wrong. Her ship didn't look like a warship. At least not by human standards. No visible weapon arrays, no heavy armor plating. Its surface curved in smooth, seamless lines, almost organic, like it had been grown instead of built. We are the guns, I muttered as we docked. Ruse didn't answer. The airlock opened without a sound. Inside, the silence hit me first. Not empty, but control. Every step I took echoed just enough to remind me I didn't belong there. The lighting shifted subtly as I moved, like the ship was aware of my presence. Creepy, I whispered. Maintain composure, Ruiz said under his breath. Then I saw her, standing alone in the center of the chamber. For a second, I didn't even realize she was the commander. She wasn't imposing in the way I expected. No armor, no visible weapons, no aggressive stance. Just a tall, slender figure, her form vaguely humanoid but off. Her limbs were too long, her posture too precise, like she had been arranged rather than standing naturally. Her surface shimmered faintly, colors shifting in slow, fluid patterns that made it hard to focus on any one detail. I remember thinking, that's it. That's what we're being reassigned to. She turned toward us. The movement was smooth, but not organic, too exact, like every motion had been pre-calculated. Human units have arrived, she said. Her voice didn't come from her mouth. It resonated through the space, layered, almost harmonic. I glanced at Ruiz, raising an eyebrow. He didn't react. I stepped forward. Sergeant Kareem, reporting as ordered. Her gaze settled on me. It felt like being scanned, not looked at, processed. You exhibit skepticism, she said. I smirked. You could say that. You doubt my capability. That made me chuckle. No offense, Commander, but I don't even know what your capability is yet. A pause. Then, you will. Something in the way she said it. Flat. Should have bothered me more than it did. Instead, I dismissed it. Another alien with a superiority complex. I'd met a few. They talked big, leaned on tech we didn't fully understand, but when things got messy, they still needed boots on the ground. Needed us. That assumption lasted exactly one mission. We deployed within hours. No strategy meeting, no briefing, just coordinates and a command to move. Engagement parameters. I asked over comms as we approached the drop zone. Follow assigned vectors, she replied. That's it. Wes, I frowned. What are we walking into? A hostile environment. I exhaled sharply. That narrows it down. No response. The drop zone was a ruined urban sector. Half collapsed structures forming tight corridors and blind corners. Perfect place for an ambush. Stay sharp, I told my squad as we moved in. The first sign something was wrong came from our scanners. No clear targets, Ruiz said. But I'm picking up movement everywhere. That didn't make sense. Then the walls shifted, not metaphorically. The buildings moved, panels sliding, structures reconfiguring, sealing off exits behind us. Contact, someone shouted. Automated turrets deployed from hidden compartments, already tracking us. We scattered returning fire, but the angles were bad. Too many blind spots. Commander, we're pinned. I snapped. Maintain position, she said. I stared at the comm unit like I'd miss her. We're in a kill zone. Correct. Anger flared. Then get us out. Negative. My grip tightened on my rifle. Do you not understand what's happening down here? A brief pause. Then I understand completely. That's when doubt started turning into something else. Then why aren't you doing anything? I demanded. We are already acting. At the time, it sounded like nonsense. We were surrounded, outgunned, and she was talking like this was part of the plan. I remember thinking she'd made a mistake, that she wasn't as capable as command believed, that we were going to die because someone overestimated an alien who didn't understand how humans fought. I was wrong. But in that moment, pinned behind a crumbling wall with rounds tearing through the air around me, I still believed it. And that belief, that underestimation, almost got me killed.